Good afternoon, it's Morwynne here. Just finished day 2 at the AIFS conference. We've just come out of a really interesting panel discussion around system reform. The title of the panel discussion was System Reform, Is It Dead? That ended up with some incredibly interesting discussion. So I'm really pleased to be joined now by Muriel Bamblett AM and by Robert Fitzgerald AM also, Commissioner. So I'm very lucky to now have the opportunity to just ask a couple of questions about the content that came from that panel discussion. So first, I'm going to turn to you, Robert. I'm going to ask you, you mentioned in there, we were talking about some of the challenges that come up in research in getting the child's voice and in understanding what children want and need. If we find a way to do that and do that well, how do we then encourage policy and decision makers to really value that voice?
Well, it's very much about trying to give agency to children. So what we've got to be able to do is not only talk to them and listen to them, but then actually say, how do we in fact incorporate what they've told us in the design of policies, program, practices, more generally. And that's going to be the tricky part. Because traditionally, whilst we may have spoken to children, we actually haven't listened to them in a way that's influenced policy. And what's come out of the Royal Commission, what's come out of many, many inquiries generally, is that the voices of children and young people are critical to understanding how they see the world, both in terms of safety, in terms of well-being, in terms of their own aspirations. They're also very helpful in actually telling you how to design a system that makes sense for them. And I think that's the real challenge going forward. How do we give them agency, not just simply just talk to them?
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. Muriel, I'm now going to ask you, we were listening in there to some of the real challenges that we're facing in terms of system reform, in terms of whether that's even a concept that still has relevance. But I just wanted to ask you a question with a bit more hope. Where do you see some hope in where we're going and where there might be potential for some change and some reform?
I think that Aboriginals, particularly in Victoria, we're looking at self-determination and things around self-determination. Robert talked about, the importance of Aboriginal people having decision-making over. So under the treaty legislative framework, there's going to be representative bodies set up all over Victoria, and so being able to hear voice and have people involved in decision-making and involved in policy discussions, operational discussions, rather than just having someone else, dictate or not having voice at all. And so I think it's really important that Aboriginal people are involved in any discussions and that there be a governance group that's robust enough to be able, and funded enough to be able to take, be involved in the full discussion, not just be at the tail end or when something's been delivered or done for them, they get asked at the end.
So that genuine involvement.
That's right.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
So that marks the end of day 2 here at the conference. We'll be back tomorrow. You'll find hopefully a link to this presentation. The panel discussion will be on our website very soon, so look out for that. We'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Thank you.